Dust in the skies, dust on the trail.
For today's Grimm adventure, we find ourselves in Cottondale, Texas, visiting the final resting place of Machine Gun Kelly. Well, not the Machine Gun Kelly, the musician that's alive and well and making music, but the Prohibition-era gangster known as Machine Gun Kelly.
It's Machine Gun Baby Ghoul, and don't you forget it. This is a stick-up. Hand over your valuables if you know it's good for you. Pew, pew, pew! Pew, pew, pew!
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always coming my way.
Pew, pew, pew! Pew, 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 pew! Coppers, they're on to us. Let's make a getaway.
Oh, it's funny that Jessica's making a getaway towards the Cottondale Cemetery where Machine Gun Kelly is actually buried. And we're going to talk about it in a minute. We haven't been inside the cemetery yet, but we're going to try to find him. It's not that big. But I will say this.
It's me.
Wait. Machine Gun Kelly died July 18th, 1954 in Leavenworth Prison from a heart attack. And he's actually buried here in this cemetery because at the time he was married to a woman, last name Kelly, and this is where her family's plot is. So they brought him back here, and right behind these gates, somewhere, we'll find it in just a minute, is where you'll find him. But right over here is a historic plaque that talks about it. It says Machine Gun Kelly, during the Prohibition era, organized crime increased. Big name gangsters like Al Capone ruled the streets while public enemies such as Bonnie and Clyde swept across the country. Now, I'm not going to read it all, but I'll leave this right here. You're more than welcome to pause this, read it, and then come back to the adventure. Just a quick little video here.
I find it funny, the wording they decided to use. It says here that his wife Catherine was known to be a good shot with various firearms and eventually bought a Thompson machine gun for her husband, earning him his nickname. To me, that sounds like he wasn't a very good shot, so she bought him something where he couldn't miss. Because that's like it sprays, right? Thompson machine gun, like, no accuracy? I could be wrong, but that's what it sounds like to me.
Now here's the real quick rundown of Machine Gun Kelly's life, something I like to call the back of the DVD synopsis. Machine Gun Kelly was born, his birth name was George Francis Barnes Jr. He was a crappy student growing up. Everything I read online says that the best grade he ever got was a C+, and there was a little note that said it was for personal hygiene. Took care of himself. I'm pretty sure, if I read it correctly, he got married young, but his life wasn't really turning out the way that he wanted, so he ended up running away with his girlfriend and entered the world of crime. Basically, he became a bootlegger. That turned into kidnapping and robbing banks and all that stuff. In fact, what he's most known for is kidnapping an oil tycoon for a pretty hefty ransom. Because of the victim's keen sense of his surroundings and paying attention to everything, the FBI was able to track down Machine Gun Kelly and his wife, who was part of his gang, and arrest him.
Memphis, Tennessee, 1933, and federal agents capture Machine Gun Kelly. Seized with Kelly is his wife, Catherine, and arrangements are made to move both to Oklahoma City for trial. Kelly, wanted for murder in 3 cities, high on the list of public enemies, and suspected leader of the kidnap gang, which held oil millionaire Charles Urschel for $200,000 ransom, is to face a jail sentence with 7 others. At the Oklahoma City courthouse, the mother and stepfather of Kelly's wife, along with 5 others, are about to be tried under the so-called Lindbergh federal law. This is Charles Urschel, the kidnapped victim, who sees his captors in court. Kelly and the others await sentence by federal judge vote.
The defendants will please stand.
It's the judgment of this court that R.G. Shannon.
Newsreel cameras and recorders are allowed for the first time at a federal trial as Judge Bort proceeds to impose penalties on the defendants. All of them are found guilty and sentenced to life imprisonment.
Penitentiary for the term of her natural life. The marshal will retire with the prisoners.
And like I said, Machine Gun Kelly died in Leavenworth Prison of a heart attack, and he's buried here. His wife, she ended up, I do believe she got released from prison and died of old age, and she's buried elsewhere. But Machine Gun Kelly is here in her stepfather's plot. I know it's a lot, but we're gonna find it. And with that being said, let's go ahead and get inside here and have a little bit of a cemetery safari trying to track down Machine Gun Kelly. And those cemetery gates are just as tall as you are. At the top it says Cottondale 1885 and then Cottondale Cemetery right there on the gate itself. Do you hear the cow off in the distance? So they have everything pretty marked off so you know where you're going.
It says that he's buried in row 11, and we are just now passing row 5.
There's just a little further to go.
I haven't seen grasshoppers in a very long time. I want to chase them.
You can chase the grasshoppers. Go ahead. There she goes. The pathway is marked with these numbers, and right at the very front of the cemetery next to the gates it has where everybody's plotted out. So we pretty much know exactly where he's at. Plus it's not that big of a cemetery. I mean, look at all these open fields, and they even have cows way over there. Look at that. See, not too far from the main gate. Row number 11, they have it clearly marked, and it says that his is the very first tombstone, which would be right to the right of the path. I'm going to try to clear his headstone of debris in just a second, but this is how it looks of us just walking here. Some people have left some coins, but there's some cut grass.
Dust in the sky, dust on the trail, dust
George
in my
D.
eyes.
Kelly. And for whatever reason, I don't know why,
Can't see the
but
sun,
from what I read online,
can't find
it
my
said
way.
that they purposely misspelled his name, Kelley. I'm guessing because it's in the Kelly family plot that they wanted to kind of separate him, but because he was married to the daughter,
The vultures in the sky,
this is where he's at.
know the time is nigh. Will they fly away or wait?
I know that it says family plot, but we've looked around and I don't see any other markers that resemble even the name Kelly. So I wonder if any other family is buried here, but maybe they're unmarked, because we did walk past another row that was completely empty. There's no other graves around his.
Now, I do remember reading something that this was the stepfather's
The stepfathers,
family
yes.
plot, but still there's no Kellys anywhere.
Not that I found.
Aside from Machine Gun Kelly's final resting place, there's really nothing else here. It's such a quiet, quaint little cemetery in the backwoods of Texas that there's no statues, there's nothing else that we can go around and say, look at this, look how beautiful it is. It's just being here.
Just
History,
cows.
right? There's cows, there's that
Cows.
old, it's a church and it's a school that dates back to 1919. There's a sign on the door. Before we leave, you know what we should do? We should actually go down into Cottondale and see if there's anything like, I don't know, like old-timey, I guess you should say. Something that, like, wow, that's kind of neat. Well, it seems like there's really not much to Cottondale, Texas. Just like a one intersection kind of town. I mean, there's a couple of different roads that go off down into like the backwoods area. But there's really nothing here. There's a gas station. Oddly, there's a winery way down there, but there's no like real town square, at least none that we found. I think the closest town technically now is Paradise, Texas. It's probably about 5 miles away. So if you do want to come out here and visit the final resting place of Machine Gun Kelly, there's a gas station, and that's pretty much it. With that being said, until next time, happy Halloween.
Wherever I come, bad luck is coming my way. Wherever I go, hard luck is there to stay. Good luck never stays a day. Bad luck's always a